my tutor said, you are African, aren't you? Why don't you make authentic African art? The question of authenticity is a bit suspect.
Yinka Shonibare was born in England to Nigerian parents. The year was 1962, 2 years after Nigeria gained independence from the United Kingdom, and 1 year before Nigeria declared itself a federal republic. Shonibare grew up in Lagos until the age of 16, when he went back to London to finish his schooling, which included an undergraduate degree and a Master's of Fine Arts. Shonibare has described himself as truly bicultural, placing himself and his art in a global context. He explores issues of identity, authenticity, race, class, colonization, and globalization through a range of media that includes sculpture, painting, photography, and installation art. The letters MBE at the end of the artist's name represent the fact that he has been made a member of the British Empire by the Queen of England. This has been a backdrop to the work of the artist. Since 1994, a key material in Shonibare's work is brightly colored batik fabrics, often associated with West Africa. Following his tutor's comments about authentic African art, Shonibare went to Brixton Market in London to buy these African fabrics. There, he found out that the fabrics were actually industrially produced by the Dutch for sales to the Indonesian market. The factory-produced versions of batik were not well accepted in Indonesia, and so the Dutch tried West Africa, where the fabrics were very successful.
Of course, when we see those fabrics, we think of Africa. We don't necessarily think of Holland or Indonesia, and so I like the fact that something which is supposed to be African does carry all of these global transactions.
Today, this cloth is still immensely popular in Western African nations and can be seen as an emblem of identity and pride. Shonibare has said that his work is about making complex issues simple. One way Shonibare confronts such complex issues is by using the fabrics associated with Africa to recreate famous paintings. Shonibare's Gainsborough's Mr. and Mrs. Andrews Without Their Heads, 1998, restages the famous Thomas Gainsborough painting Mr. and Mrs. Andrews. In Shonibare's work, the affluent grounds, as well as the heads of the subjects, are absent. This piece does the work of presenting an image of landed gentry stripped of both their land as well as their identity. Their dress is now associated with Africa, not Europe, further emphasizing the intersections between the colonizer and the colonized, as well as the intersections between the nation and the individual through dress. Shonibare's The Swing, 2001, restages Jean-Henri Fragonard's The Swing. The woman in the work is dressed in Victorian-fashioned clothing made of Dutch wax fabric and is headless. In interviews, Shonibare has pointed out that about 20 years after the creation of the original painting, the French Revolution occurred, during which many members of the aristocracy were beheaded. Thus, one possible work Shonibare's restaging does is to predict the fate of the woman in the original painting. Shonibare's Reverend on Ice, 2005, was inspired by Sir Henry Raeburn's Reverend Robert Walker skating on Duddingston Loch, also known as the Skating Minister. Shonibare has noted that when seeing this painting, he liked the contradiction between the serious man and the playful gesture. Because the original painting can be seen as an image of Scottish culture, Shonibare has again raised questions of identity. Shonibare has also done work aimed at reaching audiences outside the art world. In his 1998 series of photographs, Diary of a Victorian Dandy, the artist is featured in various scenes from a day in the life of a fictional 19th century British dandy. The dandy is generally thought of as an outsider who is nevertheless admired in a society for their unique style and decadence. Paid actors were used to form various scenes, and the resulting images were made into a set of giant posters. The posters were displayed at a number of stations on the London Underground for 1 month. Colonial rule has made possible the continuity of access to the cheap labor and raw materials that were once the context and justification for transatlantic slavery. This history contributed to the foundations of European imperialism and prosperity. This series of photos serve as postmodern and post-colonial images of identity, power, and parity. Shonibare's work also touches upon issues of globalization. The artist's 2006 work, titled Black Gold, evolved out of one major issue of global conflict today: the consumption and desirability of oil. Nigeria, as a member of OPEC since the 1970s and a major producer and exporter of oil, is very much a part of this global issue. During the oil boom, billions of dollars generated by production in the oil-rich Niger Delta flowed into the coffers of the Nigerian state. The money, however, due to corruption at all levels of the government, did not benefit the majority of the people of Nigeria. Shonibare uses these facts as a backdrop for this painting. The background of the piece looks like an explosion of oil, and the title, Black Gold, suggests the true view of oil today. Yinka Shonibare's work raises questions of authenticity and identity by combining notions of colonization, biculturalism, and globalization. Much of his work is a response to Thatcherism and a call for the restoration of Victorian values. The Victorian era, however, was one of colonization and repression. Shonibare thus questions identity, history, and cross-cultural influences through his artwork.
Amin,